On this episode, we catch up on Dragon's Dogma 2, what we think about games respecting our time, and we debate the best Mascot games selections on the Pixel Picks Showdown. All this and more on the Pixel Parents podcast. Hello and welcome to the next episode of the Pixel Parents podcast, the show that discusses all things gaming from the perspective of parents. I am, of course, your host, Liam Kirk-Kelvin, and today I am joined by none other than Scott, the tastemaker Curry. How are we, Scott?
It never gets old. It never gets old. I am alright.
Good.
Obviously getting over or currently working through a cold, but certainly making my way through life with this cold. That's part of the joys of being a parent, isn't it? You just it comes with the territory, but doing okay.
Yeah.
How are you?
I'm not bad, not bad. I'm probably about a week ahead in terms of that. You know what it's like, just like you said, you become like a germ sponge.
It's the best. I love it.
Yeah, it's been a hectic couple of weeks though, but I'm glad to be on the other side of it, and I'm glad to be here today. I've been dying to kind of talk nonsense again on the mics. You know, it's been good fun. And actually, since we last recorded, we've officially launched.
I know.
We're out and about.
We're famous now.
That's it. Just send us all the free stuff.
I'm going to start
even
cold
if it's
plunging,
terrible.
start taking ice baths and stuff.
That's it. We're even on TikTok. Jesus.
Oh, God, aye.
What have we become?
I know. old da on TikTok.
I know, it's terrible. It really is. No, it's been good fun, and thank you to everybody that has listened to the podcast.
Yeah.
If you're still with us, we really appreciate all your support. It means the world to us. But of course, before we get into things today, if you do want to be part of the podcast, just come say hello, share your thoughts with us at pixel_parents on Twitter/X, or of course write into us at pixelparentspodcast@gmail.com. So let's get things started as we always do, Scott. So what you been playing?
So I have been playing Dragon's Dogma 2, and playing and suffering through is probably the best way to put it. I finished it, so I literally just couldn't be bothered anymore. I got to the second area, and I've literally just ran through the rest of the game. I just couldn't deal with it anymore. I don't like not having. It's quite pertinent to this whole episode because we're going to obviously the topic we talk about, but
yeah.
I did not enjoy that game. I've not enjoyed it. The open world, you know, it's large. It's full of stuff, but it's full of nothing.
Yeah.
It's like a massive, large open world that you have to basically traverse on foot for about 80% of it, and I couldn't be bothered with that.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you're playing it yourself, and kind of, I won't spoil any ending parts for it, but it felt like the ending of it didn't really hit home at all. Like, you know, you've got this massive open world adventure, and at the end, you want to have a sense of achievement from it, and it kind of just felt like, why did we bother? You know, like what's the point in that? It kind of felt like the first one.
So you finished the game now?
Finished the game.
Wow. Okay. So that's quite a. I'm actually quite gutted for you as well. There's nothing worse.
It's,
you know.
So I think overall time clocked in at about 40 odd hours.
Right, okay.
I got to the point where I was just like, I can't even deal with this anymore. They've since patched some of my least favourite parts of it, which were like some of the pawn dialogue options and stuff, and the way they talk to you. They've become kind of meme worthy now, but I finished that, and I'm going to come back to that in a minute. Put a pin in that.
Okay.
Just leave that with me. So I finished that, and I've immediately, as we both intended to do, started Rise of the Ronin. And that is a game that you will love.
Okay.
You will eat that up and eat it up and eat it up.
I'm hungry.
You are going to be chuffed to bits with this. If you enjoyed Rebirth and you enjoy your open world, this is the game for you. Drop everything and just play it, because it's fantastic. I don't really like it as much as I like the Neo games though.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the Neo games combat especially Neo 2's combat was really tight.
Yeah.
Whereas maybe it's just because I'm shite at it, but it's a game that I'm finding hard to be good at the
So
moment.
that's because I've not started it yet,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm really intrigued because anybody that's unfamiliar, Scott is a man that will rise to the challenge.
Hmm.
He loves a challenge and he's good at it. So, in terms of the difficulty, is that something that you've just clocked on hard and just treating it like a Neo type experience?
Yeah, I'm playing it. I've actually forgot about that because I am actually playing it on the hardest difficulty that you can play it on. And it's not a hard game.
Yeah.
It's not a difficult game. Like it's kind of like Neo that way where you just get better at it every single time. It's just repetition. But some of the fights, you've got like a parry state, like a counter state,
Mhm.
and I just can't. I'll maybe 2 out of 5 times I'll get it. Whereas in Neo it was 5 out of 5, which is probably part of the kind of fun in playing it because you do have to kind of work it out what you need to do. But it's as I'm playing it, I'm thinking you are going to love this. Like
Yeah.
I thought about making characters and stuff as well, and I just thought, I'll just play with the characters that are there. But as you move into that open world, you're going to honestly, like a sponge, soak this up.
Oh, man.
And I see you having a really good time in it. I really do. I've just unlocked, obviously from the trailers, you've seen the glider and stuff as well. So I've just unlocked that. So that's opening up a whole range of combat sort of kind of strategies and stuff. But I played that, but then I've hit a kind of point in the last week or so. So I'm just going to completely derail this whole conversation. Where I text you saying I'm in a bit of a crisis at the moment.
Mhm.
Said it's really, really difficult because I didn't want to tell you what it was, and you're asking me all these questions and stuff and trying to figure out what it was. And basically, what it is that I just don't know what to play right now.
Do you know, I'm actually kind of relieved to hear you say that because I'm in the wilderness just now.
Mhm.
Like, I feel a little bit divorced from gaming
Yeah.
because I've sunk pretty much this first quarter of the year
Mhm.
into Final Fantasy VII, right? You ruined me. You absolutely ruined me.
I've destroyed gaming for you.
That's it. Like nothing hits. It's
Yeah.
like, food doesn't taste as good anymore type thing,
Things don't look as bright. I think it's. I said this when I finished it, and I said it's left a massive Final Fantasy VII shaped hole in my life.
Yeah.
But I just don't know what to play. Like I'm going through the motions at the moment where I'm playing things for like maybe 5-10 minutes,
Mhm.
a couple hours here and there, and I'm like, I just can't be bothered. Like I played Dave the Diver. I thought there's obviously a reason why it got, rave reviews and people love it. And it obviously went up on PlayStation Plus. So I thought I'm going to give it a go and see how it is. And it's fun.
Yeah.
But it's also a game where, again, why am I bothering with this? Like there's obviously an end goal to it, but it's not something that's really sort of kept my focus on it.
Mhm.
So the final game that I started playing, because this is I'm in the motions of just picking things up, dropping them, picking things up and dropping them, is obviously we're off the back of Fallout the TV show,
Mhm.
and everyone's high on it, and I was never a big Fallout fan, but I really got hooked on that show.
Yeah.
It's excellent.
Absolutely brilliant.
And I thought I watched it with my wife, and I was telling her, kind of trying to explain all these different things to her, like who are the New California Republic, like who's the Enclave and all that, and like trying to explain different parts of it. And I'm like, I actually don't know. I don't know anything about it. So I watched a man who explained the entire lore of the Fallout series, a 9-hour video. And then I thought, I'm going to play one of them.
Mhm.
So I played Fallout New Vegas, and I got to Novak, and again, couldn't be bothered anymore.
Yeah.
I love it. It's great, and it looks, obviously, if you don't mind watching, like, orange on your TV or brown the whole time, it does look great, and it runs buttery smooth on the Xbox now. But it's also just, you have to be in the mood for it.
Yeah.
So coming back to the pin that I popped in,
Okay, here we go.
I have gone back to Dragon's Dogma.
You've went back?
I've gone back for more.
Wasn't expecting that.
Because didn't enjoy it in first playthrough.
Mhm.
Well, I mean, I enjoyed parts of it, but I didn't really give it, I did give it time, but I didn't really give it the thought I'm thinking this game, like after playing Rebirth, I've been like, I want something fast paced. I want something, that looks visually gorgeous. I want story. And Dragon's Dogma didn't really offer me that.
Mm-hmm.
It was a slow burn. You kind of make your own story with it, but I wanted that again.
Yeah.
So I've gone back in. I've made another character. I've made Sting again, but better. And my main pawn is now Hulk Hogan. So
Lovely.
seeing the two of them run about the game world is just it makes me feel happy inside. And I've just changed the way that I play it.
Right,
So
okay.
I think because I never really got around the whole of the map, I kind of just went A to Z,
just
whereas
golden path it.
not going through all the other parts of the alphabet with it. So
Hmm.
I think I'm going to give it time because I'm obviously not. I can play Rise of the Ronin whenever. I can play. I'm kind of keen on playing the Fallout 4 update, but I'm back on the Dragon's Dogma 2 train. So
Oh.
I've gone from completely hating this game, like genuinely from a point where I'm like, I actually don't enjoy this.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that if I'm not worried about the ending of that game,
Mhm.
I'll probably play it for a lot longer because I'm not chasing an ending that I already know what happens. So yeah, I've gone from playing Dragon's Dogma 2 to hating it to playing every other game on my PlayStation to then going back to the game again.
Well, I mean, that's put me in a predicament now because I suppose I've been in a kind of similar path. Like as I mentioned, what I've been playing since Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I had a little spell where I wasn't feeling too great. Just like kids bringing in germs, and that derailed me for a bit. As I mentioned in previous podcasts, just arsing about the Marvel Snap, which is still the bane of my existence. I won't touch on that today. But I started Dragon's Dogma 2. I'm probably about 10 hours or something into it, and there is something pulling me into it because I'm the fantasy geek here, and it's like I'm really loving the fact that it's like, yeah, it's wanting me to take my time and just get lost in this world. Don't get me wrong, I think the world's a bit barren, a bit lifeless,
Yeah.
and you did warn me about the repetitive enemies and stuff, I think in the previous episodes, and I'm starting to see that. And it's janky as all hell. Like
Yeah.
there's a part of my brain that's saying this game is a PlayStation 3 game and it's not really modern in the way that I'm needing just now. But again, this is probably becoming a motto on this podcast: no smoke without fire. And it's like, right, just stick with it. But this week, I did just get to a point, and it was just, I think I was traveling with my party nighttime. Obviously, nighttime in this game is a big deal.
Yeah.
Got my ass kicked, and I was just like, I just cannot be bothered. And so I did the same. Thought I'd put that down, and then I just went on the big buffet mode. And like it says, Fallout TV show had happened in that time. Binged it. Great. Massive Fallout fan. So I was like, yeah, I'll go back. Went back to Fallout 3. I was like, cool. This game looks like arse now. So I turned it off. Went to Fallout New Vegas. This game still looks like arse. So turned it off. And then Fallout 4, then the news came about the update. So I thought, well, there's no point. But I can't load my previous save anyway because it's a digital version I have now, and it won't load your save on PlayStation if it was previously disc.
Yeah.
And I've since started the update this evening when you arrived. It looks great. The frame rate in that, it's actually made me think I'm happy to restart this now because it feels fresh again.
Yeah.
But it's the worst decision I could make because I've got Rise of the Ronin sitting there in the chamber and I'm ready to start that now. But I feel bad for like not going back to Dragon's Dogma 2, but I'm thinking I'm forcing this.
Yeah.
It might be a great game, just come at the wrong time for me.
Yeah.
And then the other thing we're completely forgetting about here is we've got Shadow of the Erdtree coming up
Very
in
true.
a couple of months.
Very true.
And we were very, very silly and started the New Game Plus just for the sake of it of a co-op run. And what I've learned is I think we need to basically beat Mog
Yeah.
to access the DLC. And I think I'm on New Game Plus 4 or 5 now. So I'm probably just going to have to just restart a new character. Otherwise, I'm going to have hell.
Might be quite
with
fun
DLC.
doing that as well, though.
Yeah,
attacking it again in a different way, maybe.
yeah, I think so. But
Because
you know, it's
we played that game when it was in its like, you know, version 1, where you could
great.
abuse all the
The
different sort of like magics and stuff like that.
carry and
So
shield carried me through that game.
the entire game, aye.
It was disgusting. I was
Aye.
able to just put away like as Malekith. I put him away in like 3 seconds.
Yeah. I
Spamming
think it's just that.
it. Great.
Aye, I think the looming nature of that is obviously going to rear its ugly head. I think with Dragon's Dogma, having now, you know, gone back to it again, it's like a jilted ex. Do you know what I mean? It's like, but I say that pure. Aye, but
It's lonely on a Saturday.
I know,
night.
aye. Play me again. But I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is about it. I found myself missing it. Missing the characters in it, missing my wee party and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
like it rewards you for it. I didn't explore enough, but when I did, the things that I found were worth finding.
Yeah.
But there's parts of that game that I've never seen. Like, you know, today when I was playing it this morning before work, I what do you call it? There's an elf area at the top of the map in the first area, and you go in there and none of them speak English. You don't understand the word that they're saying. But then I found a character in like Vernworth that speaks elf, so then you follow him about and he becomes with you in the party and stuff like that. So
That's
he takes you up there. So it's just, I think I'm just going to devote more time to actually, you know, exploring in that game, because it rewards you for doing it.
Yeah.
But I also see it in a week's time where I've dropped it again and I can't be bothered with it anymore.
Well, I have been quite shocking with my buffet approach, because you said exactly how I was feeling. You want something that looks good, plays good, that's punchy.
Mhm.
So I actually started the New Game Plus Spider-Man 2. So I thought, I can fart that out easy, no bother. And I didn't even get past the Sandman fix. Like, all right, I've done this. And I'm not the type of guy that kind of replays games a lot. But I ended up then downloading via PlayStation Plus Star Wars Rebel Assault 2, because I remember playing that as a kid and loving it.
Yeah.
My God, that game is pish.
Yeah.
Well, I was playing it and I was like, this is borderline unplayable now. Turned that off. And then Tales of Kenzera had arrived, and that I have thoughts on. So I'm probably about a third of the way through it. And you know me, it's a Metroidvania, so I'm just going to go straight towards that. But man, of all the years for that game to come out, it had to come out after Prince of Persia,
Yeah.
The Lost Crown. It was just, Prince of Persia is still probably fighting for my Game of the Year spot with Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, because it is impeccably made.
Yeah.
Like the rhythm of it, the kinetic nature of the combat, it's just, anime is all hell at points as well, right? So you would love it. And the way that the world's designed, it comes back around in itself. It's just, everything about it had no right being that good. And again, I think it was just a pleasant surprise, especially because it was a Ubisoft game, and you know, we don't expect that from them anymore.
Exactly,
so
yeah.
I think I'm every time I'm playing through this game just now, Tales, and it's great. It's got the Afrofuturism vibe. It looks gorgeous. It's telling a story better, I think, than what Prince of Persia did. But all the while, I'm like, it's just not as buttery smooth, not as fun to play.
It's not Prince of Persia.
It's not Prince of Persia. Even like, there's just something that's just missing. It's like just half a beat too late on the movement, on the combat, everything, and then the puzzles and the backtracking, which is a hallmark of Metroidvania games. But the backtracking in this is really just like, oh, for fuck's sake, and you can't be bothered.
Yeah.
But I think I might just stick with it as a detour for now, and then I'm like, will I go back to Dragon's Dogma 2? Will I go back, or will I start Rise of the Ronin? Or will I continue and be really stupid with Fallout 4? Because there is a part of me that's like, I think I might just need that just to get lost in the world.
Kind of comfort food games in it. It's just...
Yeah. And yeah, I know, like, Fallout 4, like, it didn't really click with you in the same way that it would click with myself. But I still really encourage you to play it, because I think
I think I'm going to. It might come at the right time for me.
Yeah, I
because
think it will.
I'm looking for something to kind of get lost in. I don't know. It's Fallout games in a kind of as a whole for me. I don't really vibe with, but I'm kind of thinking that because I enjoyed the TV show so much that
Yeah.
there might be parts of it that I'll see. I'll be like, oh right, okay,
That's it,
that kind
yeah.
of makes a bit more sense, or kind of getting to enjoy the characters a bit more. But it's just,
Listen, it's lore, man.
yeah, that's
Like,
that. I think that's
if-
all it is, and I'm not for one that plays games that involve quite a lot. That I'm quite guilty of just skipping through dialogue options
Sacrilege.
constantly, just pressing circle, just skip everything, man. Stop talking to me and let me just go and shoot things,
Yeah,
or miss shots on every single person I try and shoot. Fallout New Vegas, but
Listen, where's my soapbox?
yeah,
Is it there? Because I need to get this out right. At what point did Fallout New Vegas become the darling of the franchise? When that game came out, right, it was judged accurately for what it was, which not as good as Fallout 3. Right, and I'm going to say the internet's going to come at me. They won't. They won't. They're going to come at this. Right?
I hope they do.
But I think this is my heel turn, right? Heel turn of the podcast. But it's like Fallout New Vegas just wasn't as good as Fallout 3. It wasn't as good an RPG for me.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, but the narrative, and it's like, I don't fucking care. I remember being just like, there's so much brown, and there's just nothing. It just felt like a diet version of Fallout 3. It didn't feel full fat. Now this is me back in the day,
back then.
you know, when I had more hair, you know. It's like I'm sitting playing it, and then now I'm like, YouTube has done wonders for that game
Yeah.
in terms of a kind of a zeitgeist, a lore of its own, where it's like, oh man, you gotta play New Vegas, and it's like, do you? Like, just go. I would always recommend 3 over that every day of the week. And
New Vegas is the only one that I've ever stuck out for any period of time. Like, didn't like 3. I like New Vegas, but it kind of wears itself quite thin with me very quickly.
Yeah.
Like, I enjoyed the novelty of playing it, but it was also like, there's only so many times you can listen to the music and that thing loop. Like,
yeah.
And obviously that's part of the vibe it sets and stuff like that, but it's like when you're playing Grand Theft Auto, when the music loops, you just change the station into something else, whereas you play Fallout New Vegas, it's the same thing, just on a different channel. It's just like,
I mean,
I get the point, but it just never really started landing with me, and that goes for Bethesda games, full stop with me. Like Starfield, never. I got to the first main area, the main kind of shopping area in Starfield, and I was like, this is pish.
New Atlantis.
I can't even remember, but it was bollocks, man. Like,
see, I remember I stuck it through. Like, I did 2 playthroughs of it, and it made complete sense what they were going for when you finished the game, which I won't spoil here, but it's actually, as Bethesda games goes, it was quite clever. But the further removed I got, after I put it down, I was very much like, that just wasn't really what I was hoping for.
Yeah,
there was something
you were big on that, like from the moment that you'd heard that even rumored, like,
oh yeah,
and then they announced, oh, we're making something called Starfield, keep an eye out for it, and you were literally like shitting your pants from the moment they mentioned the name
Hands
of it.
were
But
ruined that evening.
It was just no, I'm not big on first person games anyway, and I think the only one that I've ever really enjoyed was Prey. Like that atmospheric and stuff like that, and it kind of it lends itself to the first person view of it all. But
yeah, that was more arcane, wasn't it? But I think you're absolutely right. Like, I know what you mean, and you're going to have somebody like listening to this going, but you can do it in third person. It's like,
but it looks weird.
It does. It's not
Made for that. Like, it's.
I will say, Fallout 4 is a much better third person experience.
I think I've played that. I've played that on third person as well. So I probably will. I'll probably make a funny character in it and then go back to it. But for the time being, I'll just play Dragon's Dogma and hate myself.
Well, this kind of ties into and eases us into our main topic for the show quite nicely, I would say. But really, what we wanted to talk about today, or continue to talk about, is really what we're saying. The topic today is respecting your time. just our general feelings on modern gaming. How does it respect your time? Does it respect your time? But especially as parents, and I think to kick things off, I've been feeling that yes, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth has left a hole, right? And I'm not going to talk any more about that game. We've spoke about it at length, but it's left a bit of a vacuum, and I was kind of blaming that for how I was feeling. But with Dragon's Dogma 2, all I was thinking as I was playing it was, see if I was like, see if this was 10 years ago and I had the time, great. And I feel that it's going at a pace that I am not wanting to go at. And it's because I don't have the time to do
Yeah.
it. And I wonder if that's maybe kind of factoring into how we're feeling about the game. But even the fact that you've gone back to it and it's like, by the sounds of it, you're like, no, right, I'm gonna get into its rhythm, get into its groove, and you're enjoying it more, which is great. For me, I'm not there yet because I'm like, I just want something that I can just fly through, because oddly enough, there's a lot of games just now, and I like to go through these games at my own pace. And right now, I'm finding it's a quick pace
Yeah.
because I'm not wanting to linger for too long. I'm wanting to get new experiences as often as I can. If there's something that I'm really enjoying, like the game I won't mention over the past few months, I'll stick with it. But I'm finding Dragon's Dogma 2, all I'm thinking about is, man, this one's 80, 90 hours of my time. And I find it quite daunting, you know?
I think it can be. It's kind of like with Dragon's Dogma. It's kind of like, I mean, do you have to let it linger? You know, it's do you have to?
Yeah, actually,
Do you have to? It's I had to say it the minute you said it. It's a game that when it comes down to it, I mean, answering the kind of initial point in that games respecting my time, I don't feel like they ever have.
No.
I don't feel like, even before we had the little one, it was always time that I was kind of feeling like I can't be bothered with this. Like, just try to make some notes in terms of the games that I've played before kind of parenthood and then after parenthood. And the big one that stands out is The Witcher 3.
Oh,
Now,
what a game.
I love that game. Love it to bits. But it's also so long. It's so dense, and it's like, it's packed full of stuff to do, which is great, which is what you want. Like, you pay your money and you want to do everything in that game.
Yep, we like value here.
We do love value, but it's also like, I don't really want to do it all. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like, it's kind of stuck with me. It's a game that I've never finished, and it's sad because I love it. I love everything about it, but I've never completed it because it gets to a point where I'm like, I've been playing this for so long that I literally can't be bothered with it anymore.
This is the part where I do say,
I know. Stick
we
with
don't
it.
have the time. I'm just
yeah.
going to say, the next gen update.
Yeah.
Even if you just went back ever and just play Blood and Wine, the DLC is.
I think that's it, and it's something that I will kind of remind me of this in 3 years' time when I say the exact same thing. But it's I will do it because it's a game that I've bought more times than that I care to admit. I've got it on the Switch for some reason. I've got it on the Xbox, and I've obviously got it on the PS5, but I also owned it prior to that. But it was just like, it's so long, and games are getting longer. I think I've spoken to you about this in the past. It's that games are long now for the sake of being long, and it's like there's a fine line between kind of length. I struggle with that line. It's a sort of grey area that I like in between, where games are long, but it's also necessary. Do you know what I mean? Like, Metal Gear Solid 5 was long. You weren't traversing that world looking for things to do because you always had one main thing and that was it. And I enjoyed that. And I got the platinum for that game because I did enjoy doing that. But then you've got, games like Dragon's Dogma where it's full of stuff to do, but those things that you have to do have absolutely no consequence sometimes.
Yeah.
It's kill monsters, kill a kind of series of monsters, and then that's fine. Like, I'll kill the same goblins that I've killed 100 times before, but just do it differently every single time. And I found myself at the end of my time with Dragon's Dogma that I was just grabbing them putting them on the floor, slitting their throats, and then running away. That was it. 3 seconds every single time. But the dopamine is when you get vocation level has risen, or
Yeah,
your level
yeah.
rises and stuff with it. Or you get like a brand new sword, or
Mhm.
like, different things that you can use in the game. So
Shiny stuff.
aye, that's how it hits you. But I also think, right, and this is the point that I was thinking about games, because your initial thought is, do they respect your time? And it's your initial thought is long ass games. But you've also got the flip side of games that are too short,
Yeah.
or are deemed too short.
Mhm.
Now, there's a game that I have never played that I want to play, and I probably will play it after this. Right, I'll make a point to play it. But The Order,
Oh, it was a great
it was
game.
it looked great, but it was also one of those games where it got absolutely panned in reviews because it was far too short. It was basically a tech demo for what the PS4 could do.
That's right, yeah. That's
So
right. I was one of the mugs that bought it, but
yeah,
I enjoyed it. It was you know, it it was like that Gears of War style game. It looked like impeccable.
hmm
It wasn't anything there wasn't anything special in the sense of like, oh, this is going to redefine the genre.
yeah,
I don't think all games need to do that. Being fair, I think where it landed around that quintessential 6, 7 out of 10.
hmm
But see, by the time you get to the end of it, you are like, oh, here we go, and they did such a good job of building that world, but it did feel like you got through a bit of an act one
yeah,
and where it went. I remember talking to you about it. I was like, oh, it's going to be like Van Helsing and all the rest of this, and you want to see them flesh this out, and we'll never get the answer to it because it just won't get funded.
nah,
It won't get backed, and it's a real shame. And I think time has done that game favors.
yeah,
But coming back to your point about time, short games versus long games, yeah. Like I think for me, I like to kind of strike a balance in the middle,
hmm
and then you know what I'm going to bring up here, right? Which is the Assassin's Creed argument, right? Right. I am the resident Assassin's Creed numpty here, right? But people always talk about like Valhalla, Odyssey, and all that. It's like it's too long.
hmm
And of course, when you have to listen to your audience, and this isn't just applying to us as parents, I think it's gamers at all. It's like whether if you're an adult and you're gaming, you're juggling some kind of responsibility. Some people out there might only have a couple of hours a night. Some people might have a couple of hours a month.
hmm
But when you come back to Assassin's Creed, and it's like you don't have to play it all. Like there's a golden path through the middle of that, and that's what I look for in most games. It's why I don't really tend to veer towards Yakuza games now,
Yeah.
because it's like I don't feel those games respect my time at all because it's Distraction City, and that's a nightmare for me.
They're so
But
good.
they're fantastic.
So good.
But I just don't have the time.
Yeah, no, I
which
get
is
that.
That's what it's all about, and you have to do it in your own terms. With the Assassin's Creed games, what happened was I feel there was a vocal minority from people, probably like you and me, that's just like, we don't really have enough time to really sit and go through this. I want to experience everything that you're offering in 100 hours and 20.
hmm
So we then get to Assassin's Creed Mirage.
Mirage, yeah.
And I played through that, and for years, and you always got that vocal minority. It's like, I want it to be like the first one. I want it, and it's like the first one was dog meat compared to what they actually did, right? It was like it says, glorified tech demo. It was boring. And then they brought back all these throwbacks, and they did a relatively good job, but it diluted the experience. And
Yeah.
this is where I think developers have got a nightmare on their hands, because it's like, how do you cater to everybody? You can't cater to
No,
everybody.
you
Try to
can't.
cater
It's
to everybody.
impossible.
You cater to nobody. But it's one of those ones that I always try to. It's a bit of a cop out answer, but it's like I always try to find the short game in the long game.
Yeah.
If I'm in a position where I don't necessarily have the time. Now, this time last year, I was very happily, well, I pretty much this time last year getting lost in Tears of the Kingdom.
hmm
I think we both put 80
Both
plus
of
hours
us,
into
yeah.
that game. Now, it does help that it's handheld as well, so you can take it to the throne. But it's one of those ones where what do you do when you feel a game doesn't respect your time? And right now we're kind of facing that with Dragon's Dogma 2, because it is going at a different pace that we want it to
Yeah.
at this moment. Now this isn't something that I'd say that we feel all the time. It's interesting that we're both here at the same time because you do go through seasons where maybe you're like, do you know what? I've maybe had just a bit too much gaming. I'm going to, go through, watch some TV or read a book or do whatever in your spare time. But for me, I think the best thing is just I always just kind of try force it, stop, and then I end up landing on something. So
Yeah.
I know the next game I'm going to end up being sinking 50 plus hours into it, and probably people would ask, well, how is that respecting your time? But I respect my own time. It has to be on my own terms. But I think really my preference is always going to be, is there that golden path within the long game that I know it's like, yeah, 70, 80 hours, but you can go through this. I think I did this in Rebirth. It did get to a point where we thought all the open world stuff it's inviting you to do. And I think at the same point, I think by the third world, it's like, let's just main path it.
Yeah,
And
it was gone gaga that I gave up on it. It was like, I can't be bothered with this anymore.
Exactly. And I don't want to linger on that game because we've spoken enough about it. But
on it.
I think if from a parent's perspective as well, it can be really tough because, FOMO's a real thing. And there'll be plenty of gamer parents out there that still engage somehow with this hobby that we love, or with this passion, and it's like, but through no fault of their own, it could be, the wee ones are particularly demanding. There's a lot going on at work. Partner needs you, whatever it is. Your dog needs you. It's like there's always going to be something more important to pull you away from it. This isn't the most important thing in our lives, but I think it's really tough because you want to still be part of the conversation.
Yeah, that's it. It's natural that in chasing what you love to do, that you obviously want to try and stay involved and things like that as well. So you might go and, not read any reviews for a favourite game or a game that you're wanting to go and play because you don't want to kind of catch any spoilers or anything.
Yeah.
I think we spoke about it recently when TV shows and stuff like Game of Thrones and all that was coming out, where you couldn't even look at Twitter the next day because you were worried for spoilers. Like it's parts like that. It still goes on. And you find them in the most random of places as well. Like even if you're on Reddit, if you follow like your favourite game series on Reddit, like it just completely ruins it for you. But sometimes, we are our own worst enemies with these kind of things as well.
Yeah.
Like the both of us bought Dragon's Dogma and Rise of the Ronin at the exact same time. Midway through, 75% way through Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. So, I think it's also, do games respect our time? I don't think they do, and I've never thought they do.
Yeah.
But I also don't think it's their place to kind of keep that respect for it. I think it's also you.
Yeah. We don't respect
you,
our time.
the collective us, have to kind of respect your time. And
you're right.
As you're saying, it's that golden path is really important in games because Yakuza games are an excellent example of it. And Tears of the Kingdom is also another fantastic example where you could be going to A to B, but then you get distracted by A.5. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's numbers in the alphabet now. Deal with it. But it's also just like something shiny in the distance just completely takes you away from it. So it's brutal, man. But I think that I think it's just one of those things where something's always going to fall by the wayside.
Yeah, I mean, you can't spread yourself that thin, even without the kids there.
Yeah,
it's I think in terms of like tips for other parents that I've picked up on, and there'll be if you've got your own tips as well, what you do to kind of respect your own time.
Please share them. Please
share them. We'd love to hear it. But I think for me, difficulty comes into it. So if I find that a game is maybe just chiseling away too much, like I'm just getting stuck on something, and I'm just really just interested in progressing, I'll whack it down to easy, and just go forth. And I never used to do that in the past. Particularly, I think when I was reviewing games, you'd always want to just at least get the developer's intended experience. It's either normal or in some cases just hard. Depends. It used to always be that case. I always think back to Halo, like this is how it's meant to be played.
Yeah,
but I think that's one tip that I do have, and then outside of that is it's just try to find a way to unplug
Mm-hmm.
a little bit. The spoiler stuff, like I mean, right now, X-Men 97's happening, right? That is, side note, an absolute gem that must be cherished by all, right?
Haven't
It's a
watched it.
fantastic show. However, if you look at that, same way like with any type of big game that comes out, we start at the end from a
Yeah.
content production
Yeah.
point of view. I mean, uh, if try to think forward here. If, for example, I don't know, a new God of War came out tomorrow, right? You can bet your bottom dollar that by hour 3 of that day, your IGNs or something this was going to have that content up there.
Yeah.
And that's not their fault. It's because people, like consumers, are consuming it now at such a pace. You have to keep up with that, obviously, to kind of keep your site going. You need to do that. There's a clear demand for people that will just chew and burn through content so fast, but they're the minority. They're the early adopters.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's really important to unplug so that you're not kind of feeling like under pressure to go through stuff. Respect your own time, and then again, there's no harm in slowing it down easy. You know,
Yeah.
But I think right now I'm trying to find my anchor point.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I think the other day I was like, God, we should just jump on Call of Duty or something, just to try and
clear the
clear
like,
the gaming senses a little bit.
Clear the gunk around the sinkhole.
Yeah,
it's a tough one because I've found myself recently. I mean, with the rut that I'm in, rut in what quotation marks because I'm still playing stuff, but I've kind of found myself kind of thinking to go back to like Mortal Kombat or
That's
like
good shout.
Tekken and stuff as well, just to get through it. And also the other night I just played FIFA for 45 minutes just because I want something mindless just to sit and do nothing. Like those are the games where I think if you're looking for respecting your time is that it's not them giving you time, is that you put time into those kind of games.
Yeah.
Like with Tekken, you're putting your time into getting better. Into like in the story mode, that's congested into what 8-10 hours or something.
Yeah, it's yeah.
So like you can fire through that in maybe like a week if you're taking it slow, but
platinum it in a week.
Yeah,
in my case.
If you're you, aye. But it's just like those are games that they respect your time in terms of what they allow you to do, but the respect to the time also you kind of lose that respect because you fall back on it so easily when you've not played it for a week.
Yeah.
Like if you've not, I've not played Mortal Kombat 1 since it came out, maybe 2 weeks after it came out. I've not played John Cena or anything like that, right? And Air Max just come out as well, so I'm kind of thinking I'll get back into it. But the thought of having to grind out my own character, trying to remember what they do, to then go online and get absolutely smoked by people that have been playing it every single day since the moment it came out, it's like that it's not really appealing. And I think it's what you're seeing with like Street Fighter 6 and with Tekken 8, where you can take time away from that game, but they give you easier ways to play it when you do go back, and that's respecting people's time and the kind of way that people can play it as well. So I think it's I was going to say it's a double-edged sword, but it's not really double-edged. It's like a million-edged sword because there's not really an answer for it. It's
no, because we're going to find ourselves in this situation in a month's time. Shadow the Air Tree, and it's like we just talked about
and
it.
Even that,
one worst enemy.
Even that in itself is overwhelming. Going back to it, like the thought of going through Elden Ring again in its entirety, it's just like it's mind blowing. Do you know what I mean? Like, and it's there's part of me that like I'm buzzing for it, but it's also been so long since that game came out that I'm like, obviously that should be the reason why I want to go back and play it. But there's also part of me that's like, I can be arsed, right? And I'm not. I'm saying this for dramatic effect, but it's also can I really be bothered putting all that time back into it again? And I don't know if I can. What's the point in putting putting the beginning of a DLC in an area that takes you 30-40 hours to get to?
Yeah, you could be burnt out.
You could be burnt out by the time you even get to it. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think the Witcher games do it really well. And here's me kind of doubling back to that point where you can start that game you can do the DLC, but it allows you to start from that point in the game. You know what I mean? Like all levels up and things like that. So, that there's different things in games that really do respect the player. Changing to easy mode, it is a tough hobby to have sometimes.
Yeah, it really is. But I think what we've found just by talking about it is that we will forever be in conflict with ourselves in
Yeah.
terms of respecting our time. It's not
Uh-huh.
necessarily the games, but that conflict will be forever ongoing. And speaking of which, it is time for us to move on to the Pixel Picks Showdown, which of course is the internet's number one list defining show. Every time I go to try and introduce this, I'm thinking of an even more terrible way to do it. But yeah, the Pixel Picks Showdown, myself and Scott will each pick a game in a chosen subject, and it's to feature on our Pixel Picks list, which is a definitive list of games that we feel the next generation must play. We might pass it on to our children, pass it on to any other young ones that's listening out there. But last time, if I'm looking at my list here, it was all about stealth games, and our winner was none other than Splinter Cell, and that was your pick, Scott.
Yes, I'm glad because the topic for this one threw me for a loop. So I'm just going to come back on. You have to give us first option. So
I have first option, and as tradition dictates, whenever I follow up a losing week, I always have to go for the low hanging fruit. I picked the cheat codes, yeah. But this week it's all about the best mascot game, specifically a mascot that isn't Mario, because we wanted to just make it a little bit more interesting because we love Mario, but we're trying to think who else is out there. So I shall go first. So I'm going to give you just the one that I nearly picked, and I'll
Okay.
give you the one that I did pick. So the one that I nearly picked, of course, I thought not Mario, Sonic the Hedgehog, of course, right? Because I'm like that. Sega. I was a Sega kid growing up, and it's like, yep, Sonic was everything. Loved it. Chili dogs, you name it. But I thought, no, I'm going to be a little bit of a smart ass here.
Okay.
Okay. And I'm thinking back to the 90s again. And in terms of a mascot that was everywhere, that broke through gaming into the zeitgeist. If you weren't a gamer, you were aware of this gaming mascot. So I'm picking none other than Ms. Lara Croft from the Tomb Raider
Ooh,
series.
Yes.
Yes, because she became a cultural phenomenon, as we all remember
Yeah.
the very terrible films with Angelina Jolie. But she was everywhere, absolutely everywhere. Probably not for all the right reasons.
Yeah, I was going to say.
The 90s was a very, very horny period, and we probably didn't market games the best way, because it was all just marketed towards teenage boys in their room with a questionable collection of posters on their walls. So I mean, I'm very glad we're out of that phase just now, to be honest. I don't ever want to see us go back to it 'cause it was a bit grotty. But outside of that, the Tomb Raider games, albeit they've not aged well.
I was
I know
going to
they've
say,
been
have they
masters.
aged? Have they aged very well?
They've not aged well, but I suppose some of the other mascot games haven't as well. But I remember just absolutely just being obsessed.
Yeah.
Tomb Raider 1 to 3 in particular. I remember when they came out, I would just play them. I was terrible at them, but just Lara Croft was so iconic. Absolutely iconic. I think it was just really seeing that heroine like role within games. She was absolutely badass. She could kick ass. She could fight dinosaurs, for Christ's sake.
I know. Aye.
Lock butlers and fridges.
I was
going to
say, if you didn't bring up the fridge,
but I mean, it was so.
furious.
It was the adventure. It was the pulpy nature of it. It was just, it had everything at the time. There was nothing else in the market out there because all the other mascots were cartoony.
Yeah.
And of course, Lara Croft was all very polygonal as well. But yeah, I think my pick this week has to be with Lara Croft, and I'm going to say just Tomb Raider 1.
Tomb Raider 1. Not a big fan of the Tomb Raider games.
Mhm.
Never really got on board with them until the less polygonal Tomb Raider ones. But yeah, a fantastic choice. I mean, it wasn't one that I was actually thinking of myself, but it is an excellent choice. It's it's hard to see past it.
But I will say Mascot's part of this, but it has to be a good game.
It has to be a good
So you can
game.
still
And
beat me,
yeah,
huh?
yeah. And I think I might have.
Oh God, here we
I think
go.
I might have.
Here we go.
So I have come with notes. I'm going to shake the paper for it.
God, he does
I have come
notes,
with
people.
note.
He has notes.
I have written down 2 lines
Right.
of notes. So again, I thought about mascots in games that I would like to pick.
Mm-hmm.
So immediately thought about, Ryu from Street Fighter.
Yep.
Synonymous with the series, pretty
Mhm.
much on the cover of every single box art. Blasted his way into Street Fighter 3 because he wasn't actually in it initially, and they had to put him in it because everyone was raging about it.
As it should be.
As you should be. But then I thought, I don't really like Ryu.
Mhm.
Ken was always my favourite. And Ken isn't the man on that.
No.
So then I started thinking about games that I like.
Mhm.
What are the games that I'd like to see people play? And what are the games that I'd like to pass on to younger generations for everyone to enjoy?
Oh God, I'm afraid now. He's
So-
picked the winner here, isn't he?
Again, I thought about other games, and you mentioned it earlier on in terms of Yakuza, and I thought Kiryu is the man. He has been written out of the Yakuza series and then written back in again because everyone was absolutely raging that he wasn't in it. A game where you can 1 minute be trying to find handkerchiefs for someone in a toilet to then doing karaoke is a game that's absolutely fine with me. But it's not the game that I chose,
Right.
not the mascot that I chose. And I think that you'll probably guess who I'm thinking of. Who is my favourite video game character of all time?
Right. Okay.
Right?
I've got. If it is who I think it is, I actually have a rebuttal. But oh my God.
Okay. So my favourite video game character of all time, favourite game series of all time, is Metal Gear Solid.
Mhm.
Okay. Now, your next thoughts are then kind of what game? Because obviously you're picking Solid Snake. And I mean, what more can I say? What more can I say about the man himself? Metal Gear Solid 1,
Mhm.
it was just for for party, is played it recently on the Master Chief Collection on the Master Collection. Love it. I never really had enough time to play that when I was younger. I don't think it really hit properly when I was younger. But when you play through it again, phenomenal. Got the platinum trophy on that again, and that respected my time because it wasn't long. You could finish that game in a couple hours.
Yeah.
But it's not my favourite Metal Gear Solid game. Then I thought, he's not really in Metal Gear Solid 2 that much. He's not in it that much,
If you're
Iroquois
picking-
Pliskin's in that game more. But I have to do it because it doesn't get enough love.
I thought you were going to pick Raiden for a second.
No,
I was like, oh,
absolutely
God.
not. It doesn't get enough love in the series, but Metal Gear Solid 4
Mhm.
is the game that I'm passing down.
Right.
It is hated, like it's pure vilified, but I love it. I have played that game again, probably more than anyone else on this entire planet. I love everything about it. I love the character development for Snake.
You love the cooking eggs.
I love the cooking eggs. I love Sonny, yeah. But I also just love the way it ties up that story. And it also harkens back to everything that you know about Metal Gear Solid to that point.
Mhm.
You've got everything kind of Big Boss related that takes you back to Metal Gear 1 and 2, gets you to Metal Gear Solid. You go back to Shadow Moses, the music plays, goosebumps on the arm. Was it The Rock does?
Yep.
So
Final
it's beautiful. And I mean, Snake in skin tight lycra, you just have these big massive arse cheeks the whole time you're playing it as well. So it has to be him.
Yeah. Well, a very good pick. I can't argue that Tomb Raider is a better game than Metal Gear Solid 4, which is a fantastic game. Although, when we talk about respecting your time, the cutscenes in that game didn't respect your time at all.
Absolutely not.
But they were tremendous.
You can go away from the credits in that game and go and make like a full roast dinner, and they're still playing when you come back. I've left them rolling on a few occasions.
He did go for it. But what I'm going to say that my rebuttal wise, in terms of mascot, in terms of who could cheerlead for your gaming platform, in this case, I'm going to be going with PlayStation. I think Lara Croft is just, she cut through. She was much more of that mascot phenomenon on the level of a Mario,
Yeah.
Sonic, that Mount Rushmore of gaming. Now, personally, I think that obviously Solid Snake has a deeper place in my heart than Lara Croft, and I have to add that caveat so I don't come across as a weirdo. But I do feel that if we're talking about a mascot and I'm passing something down, I'm like, you need to understand the origins of Lara Croft, because I think kids today, God, I hate saying that, would be
Kids
familiar
today.
with
Yeah.
Lara Croft, but not really understand the origins.
Mhm.
Like, she was a gaming character. She's just a very rare cultural phenomenon that managed to break out from games.
Do you think that, because obviously you've spoken about the phenomenon at the time, do you think that she's obviously a character of her time? So do you think that the modern day Tomb Raider games do her justice?
I mean, personally,
Because
reboot in
they've just become action games. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not.
well, the reboot in 2013 was tremendous, and Rise of the Tomb Raider was fantastic. The only thing that buggered that up was the Xbox deal.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking of which, you mentioned a mascot that would have killed both of these dead in the water, which is the Master Chief.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
which I'm kind of kicking myself about now, but I'm trying to be a smart ass, and keep you guessing, the listeners out there. But yeah, there's just a part of me thinking, if it's just going to be that solely around the mascot,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm coming back to the week when we picked Mario and Sonic in the Olympic Games, right? But I'm thinking your pick would have been better last week.
It would have
The
been,
stealth game.
but I'm also thinking of, if it's a mascot you're looking for, I mean, define a mascot.
Mascot that could be used en masse to sell the platform of choice, let alone the game. Now, I know
Metal Gear Solid 4,
did
PlayStation
shift a few
3,
PlayStation 3s.
PlayStation 3s.
Lara Croft
He's also
shifted a few.
I was going to say he's
PlayStation.
also in Fortnite, but so is Lara Croft, is she not?
Yep.
I don't know. I really don't know. I'd love to say you're right, but I don't think you are. I think this is the first time where I'm like staunchly against it. I love the Tomb Raider games, but they're also of their time, and there's a reason why it's been left where it has been left.
Of course, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Whereas and Metal Gear Solid's obviously been left where it's been left because Hideo Kojima no longer loves the game series, and he wants to make games about carrying babies everywhere that I love anyway. So I'm saying that
he's gone mad. He's gone mad.
But
like,
it's also like.
But also in terms of a game series, Lara Croft starred in every single one. Solid Snake hasn't.
He hasn't, but technically has in a way.
I don't know the technicalities. Yeah.
Technicalities,
Come on.
I don't know. I really don't know because.
Well, it comes down to this. Are we going to back this? Are we going to make this decision based on what's the better game? Or
No,
I
don't think that's about it for me. I enjoy Metal Gear Solid 4, but
because if it's a better game, it's Metal Gear Solid 4.
I also
hands
don't
down.
enjoy the Tomb Raider series as a whole. So maybe that's what's eating into my thought process. I don't think I can deny the cultural impact that Tomb Raider had,
We're swaying him, ladies and
but
gentlemen.
also the impact that Metal Gear Solid had and Solid Snake in terms of, protagonists of that nature.
Of course. But I think that, if I'm being honest, Solid Snake is probably more of an icon to gamers than non. I suppose it doesn't really matter, but it just comes down to who do we prefer. And I'm thinking, if it's purely based on the game itself, I can't argue against it, which is Metal Gear Solid 4. And I'm thinking, if this list is going to be something we want to hand down, I don't want to hand down a dud. I'm handing Metal Gear Solid 4 to someone over Tomb Raider. shot myself in the foot. I should have just fucking picked Halo.
I should have picked Halo, but I'd probably still argue against Halo. But I don't think.
Oh, you can't.
But the topic is. So this is going to be the hard part here because I'm now going to argue for Tomb Raider because
it's working, people. It's working.
It's if the concept is Mascot and not the game, it's Tomb Raider. But if it's Mascot and the game, it's Metal Gear Solid.
Yeah,
so that's the kind
for that reason. I think I'm going to have to agree because we come back to what the purpose of this list is. It is the best games that we can hand over to the next generation on the Pixel Picks list. Now, yeah, I think I'm quite happy to concede on that one, even though if it was Mascot and nothing to do with the game,
yeah, it'd be Tomb Raider, it'd be Lara Croft. Full stop. I wouldn't have even thought about it, but
I think, I think this week's winner should be Solid Snake brackets Metal Gear Solid 4. And I think I'm quite happy to do that. I think I quite happily respect that decision.
I love that
we have made. Feels mature. That's what we do on this show. Mature gamers. But yeah, I think that was a probably the most challenging one I've had so far, which is good. They're going to keep continuing. Going to keep chucking you curveballs. Because I think next week's one is actually, if I'm looking at it now, yeah, that's going to be a good one.
Oh God,
but you're going to have to listen to find out about that. But anyway, that wraps up the Pixel Picks Showdown for this week. And to finish on this week, we've actually got our first ever piece of listener mail. It's come from our good friend Grant Thompson,
the man himself.
So thank you, Grant, first of all, for writing into us. We hope you're well. We do miss you. He's a friend of the show, and he writes into us just to ask us quite a cool question. Now, with WrestleMania season just behind us, what's your experiences with the old wrestling games of the past, and what still stands up to this day? I think people are still modding No Mercy. That's mental.
That is, yeah.
I do agree. All the best, Grant. So, Scott, what are your experiences with the old wrestling games of the past?
So we spoke about this. I believe we either spoke about it on the podcast or have spoken about it in private, but we're talking about like kind of video game rentals and the places you would go and sort of rent them from. And one of the first games I ever rented out was WWF Warzone.
Oh, yes.
And, you know, going back to it now, it's terrible, but that game got me through hours. And I mean, hours of time. It's, as 90s children, you know, I was absolutely obsessed with the WWF. Attitude, yeah. It was, you know, it probably wasn't for me at that point in time, being 8-9 years old, but it hit different, and and it kind of, you're seeing it now, being a 33-year-old man still absolutely obsessed with it, because it was some of the best television that you could ever watch.
Yeah,
you know, watching Royal Rumble 2000 on Channel 4. Big up Channel 4. The best thing ever. Had it recorded and stuff as well with that Undertaker advert thing. But it was my earliest memory is that. I played a lot of the SmackDown versus Raw series as well. A lot of the GM mode, which they've recreated in the newer series as well. But I can't really get on board with them. My favourite, so I'll put this here and then I'll hand it over to you. But my favourite wrestling game was always it was the SmackDown series. Was it Taste of Pain?
Yeah, that
had Fred Durst in it.
Oh, it's Here Comes the Pain.
Here Comes the Pain.
That was the one with Brock Lesnar.
Yeah, he was on the front of it. Redacted on the front of it now.
We can't mention him.
But it was always you do like 10 last rides in one of the matches or something like that. Like and you would unlock Fred Durst.
It was a slobber knocker match.
It was a slobber knocker match, yeah.
In fact, was it not Just Bring It? I'm sure it was Just Bring It that had that.
It was one of them. It was one of those ones. It was one of the two of them. It was the PS2 one, but Fred Durst was in it, and that was a
buzz.
That was a buzz. Yeah. It's seeing him run out with that red hat. It was amazing. But used to just create characters in that game just for fun. Like, you know, used to sit in the character creator for hours and hours and hours, make movesets and stuff like that for the characters as well. And I played the ever living balls out of that. You know, like I played that for years, it felt like. But they were brilliant. They were so good.
Yeah. I mean, for myself, I think the hallmark moment for me was also Warzone.
Yeah.
And I remember playing that at a friend's house and just featuring Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Yeah.
And it was at that point, the advent of the Attitude Era was really upon us, and it was taking off. And from there, I remember my dad, I distinctly remember it, and he's only ever went out, and from what, obviously, he'd bought his games at Christmas and all that, my birthday, but he made a point of going out, and he only did this in 3 occasions that I remember. One, my birthday, and it was WWF Attitude had come out, and he actually went and I didn't have a clue this game was coming out, so he went and pre-ordered it. I got a T-shirt. This is from Electronics Boutique, right? It's an old cut for you.
Flash from the past there.
I know. And excuse me, and he went and got us that. And I remember playing Attitude, being totally blown away, but I was garbage at the game. The game wasn't great. It was had far too much inputs. And then SmackDown. And I remember it was my birthday. It actually came out on my birthday. And it was my auntie that had got us that for my birthday, I remember. And I had played the ever-loving balls out of that game. And then, of course, the thing we we'll forget is that they released SmackDown and SmackDown 2 like months apart.
They were very close, aye.
And I was lucky enough to get SmackDown 2 at Christmas. And that game, man, that changed everything for me. I played so much of SmackDown 2. It's still probably my personal favourite, just from a nostalgia point of view.
I'm actually trying to think of because you're talking about all the older style ones. Which were the ones that had like the intros in it?
So Warzone was the first one that had like the Titantron, and I think Attitude.
Because they would come into the ring and they would stand and they'd be like, "Your ass is grass,
and I'm gonna smoke
and I'm gonna smoke it." Or the best one was the Billy Gunn one.
Yes,
like, I've got 4 words for you. Check out my ass. Phenomenal, man. So
legendary.
Good.
I think with the first one I remember with the actual like videos playing, SmackDown, it looks goofy as hell now because it was just this really potato looking wrestler walking down with a movie. And I always laughed at The Rock doing these people eyebrow because it was just pixels just went from portrait to landscape type thing. And it was landscape to portrait. But I remember playing SmackDown 2. I didn't get Just Bring It in PS2. I didn't get a PS2 at launch. I didn't really know anybody that did because you're just a kid.
Me.
Well, there you go. But I think once I eventually did get a PS2, I didn't buy a SmackDown game until Shut Your Mouth. And that game, man, Shut Your Mouth was... I didn't realise at the time because I'd kind of fallen away from wrestling for a couple of years because I'm too cool for wrestling.
Of course,
right. And it got me back into wrestling. And I remember at that point, Hulk Hogan had just came back. The Rock, I think it was building up to WrestleMania 17, maybe at this point in time. And man, that game was so good. And then obviously, you had SmackDown versus Raw series and that come out. And then now, they're a bit more simmy, but I just would wish that they would go back to that old school arcade style. And I remember the N64 games as well.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people hold a special place in their heart for No Mercy. I could always take or leave it. I remember the second time, like my dad randomly going out and getting us a game. And this was random as all hell, and it was WCW Mayhem.
Yeah.
And that game was the first game that you could fight backstage in. And at least in my recollection. And I remember just being blown away by that. And I didn't have cable or satellite. So, like you said, it was Channel 4, the odd showings, Royal Rumble, No Way Out. Outside of that, WCW was on Channel 5 all the time.
Yeah, all the time, yeah.
That was kind of like your main touch point, even though I wouldn't ever say I was a WCW fan over a WWF fan at the time, but it was just, that's probably my lineage with wrestling games as far as I can go back now.
I think now they've just become, like it's just like buying FIFA. Like, it's just like random tiny wee updates, new roster people and stuff like that as well. Part of the joy in the current wrestling games is your creator wrestlers. A lot of the sort of stuff that you see online, people streaming it, they're creating wrestlers or they've created their own promotions and they're running them like that and just letting them go through, which is class, which is basically why you buy these games now. But
I think I got hooked on watching. It was Kind of Funny did one,
Yeah.
KFW, and it was great. It
Yeah.
was like a weekly show.
It's phenomenal, but I think there is a place for, arcadey type games.
It has to come back. I mean,
Yeah,
AEW tried it,
AEW tried to do it, and I think that
but AEW's
they didn't.
ass.
Don't start this. Don't start this.
It. That's my heel turn.
It came out, but it didn't stick the landing. I think that it left a lot out.
That's AEW for doing it.
But even something like, what was that one that came out there? It was like an arcadey WWE game.
And did it have like Hulk Hogan?
It had Hulk Hogan and it had like
disaster.
Andrew the Giant. Was it All Stars or something like that? I'm literally reading it's All Stars as I say that, but you would bounce off the ropes and stuff like that, and you would it would be like these massive daft looking characters and stuff. I think there's a place for that, and they did it again. It was like Battlegrounds or something like that.
Oh God, I forgot about Battlegrounds.
All the characters came out and they were like zombies and stuff like that at a point.
Aye.
But I think it's there's a place for it, and there's obviously a reason why these games held such a a high place in our hearts when we were younger, because when you're younger you're not really thinking about it and you're just playing game mindlessly at a point. You're just doing it to get finishing moves.
Oh yeah,
I mean that's the best part of it, was getting the finishing move, get the knockout, and then pin them. It's class.
Yeah, or like just doing the special matches, like putting someone through the
Hell in a Cell,
the casket.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's running through a cage match in 2 seconds and always being disappointed, but you still go back.
Aye, yeah. It's they were great. But then also, what do you consider a wrestling game? Does it have to be a?
I think
does it have to be in a? This was a topic in a podcast that I listened to, Triple KO with Maximilian and Matty Muscles and Justin Wong. They were talking about the difference between wrestling games and fighting games and stuff.
Yeah.
And whether or not you tie wrestling games into the fact that it's run by a wrestling promotion, right?
Mm-hmm.
So one of the key points that were brought up was if it has wrestling in it, is it still classed as a wrestling game, right?
Okay.
Let's just say you answered yes to that question. Let's just go, yeah, it is, right? So do we then put the Def Jam series into those?
Okay, I like your thinking.
Because it's technically a ring, because you're surrounded by, people within like a club or something like that. Sometimes you actually do fight in a ring.
Yeah.
But Snoop Dogg's in it.
Yeah, there's a lot of icons in those games.
It's just that game series, Def Jam ruined the internet that day, because they came out and said, if we get 1 million followers, we'll show you what we've been working on in the Def Jam series, and never ever did anything with it.
Yeah.
So we absolutely boycott Def Jam, but that game series came out at a time where I have absolutely no right to be playing that game. You can date Carmen Electra in it. You can date random, generic rap females, but my God, was it good?
Oh, it was great fun. It was a time and a place.
Yeah.
And gaming, wasn't it? And who knows? I don't think we'll ever get back to it. And I think just because trends have changed, like younger kids are now playing like different types of games for longer.
Yeah.
And I'm not just going to be like, all they do is play Fortnite. It's not that type of thing at all. But it's just, we're in a need of chasing different trends. But I hope one day we do see the return of a Def Jam or a grappler or even just a decent arcadey wrestling game. I would love that. And I think, joking aside, I think, AEW were definitely onto something and they meant well. And I know Kenny Omega's a big wrestling fan and he's a big gamer. Big wrestling fan. He's a wrestling fan.
He's a big wrestler.
Gaming fan, but he had such a love for No Mercy. They wanted to kind of create it with that DNA. So, watch this space. That's all I can say. Who knows? There's old farts like us that will buy it and lap it up.
Yeah.
So
I fall foul of buying wrestling games every single year. So
I know.
I've done well not to buy this one, but I probably will when it's cheap.
Always is. Just watch them sales.
Yeah.
Watch them sales. But that brings us to the end of this week's podcast. It's a long one, if we were famous, we'd be charging you for this, honestly.
God, imagine.
But we're not going to do that. We believe in value here. You know what I mean? Not going to do the bait and switch where we get you in for a few episodes and then announce a Patreon.
We're a podcast with a Nectar card. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Get it a wee bit cheaper.
Exactly. We value daft. But again, thank you once again for joining us, Scott. And again, thank you to our listeners.
Yes, thank
we
you.
really do appreciate every single one of you that are tuning in and staying with us and enjoying our patter week on week. And if you like what you hear, maybe leave us a wee 5-star review. Really helps us out. And again, we appreciate everyone that's done that so far. Means the world. Helps us out. Makes a huge difference. On that note, Scott, where can people find you if they want to engage with you online?
Nowhere. In the battlegrounds of Vernworth. You can find me on Twitter. I think I get my username wrong every single time. Is it Llamaman1991 or something like that?
It's at Llamaman91.
At Llamaman91. There you go. I should probably remember that, but I never will. Find me on there. Challenge me to a wrestling match.
1v1 on Rust.
1v1 on Rust.
And you can find me on Twitter/X at Carmelite. You can see half my head on there and it's pink. That's how you know it's me. And again, we want to thank you to our producer and music man, the talented, never handsome Mr. Sean Murray. I appreciate all you do.
So handsome.
He really is. He really is. We're very lucky to have him in our lives, just to look at. And of course, you can listen to the next episode on all major podcast platforms. Follow us on Twitter/X at Pixel_Parents. And of course, do like Grant did. Write to us at pixelparentspodcast@gmail.com. We would love to feature you in any of our upcoming episodes as well. So until next time, stay safe, stay sane, and thanks for listening.
Play Alan Wake 2. Please.